Welcome to the Rebirth. My name is Shay Marriott, and I am your host. And joining me tonight is my co-host.
Oh, I don't have a name tonight. Hey, what's up, family? It's your boy Eli Isabel, one half of the Rebirth team. Happy Monday, Shay.
Happy Monday. What's going
good?
On, everybody?
What's up, Philly? What's up, Delaware? What's up, Jersey, Tri-State area, and worldwide? What's good?
We are in the building.
Yes, we here. We made it.
We made it. Another weekend that flew by.
Another damn Monday. These weekends like a lunch break long.
A lunch break long?
Yeah, that 30-minute thing. It's like it's Monday again.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I'm over it. I'm waiting for Friday. Damn, it's only Monday.
Yeah.
Damn you, world.
Yeah, but you got a special day coming up this week. So,
Wow, yes.
Yeah.
I turned 28 again.
Yeah, in your dreams.
I'm back, baby. Tomorrow is a day. Listen, they say the Lord rested on the seventh day, right?
Okay.
After he made me, I exhausted him. He needed that day. Y'all think it's because of the world. That's because of me.
That's because
your
of
boy,
you.
He said, this Negro is a handful. Let me sit down somewhere. So I'm going to thank you in advance, Lord, sweet baby Jesus, for letting me wake up in the morning.
God, here we go.
And hit the big 4 and 9. I'm going to take that.
Here we go.
Yes,
okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
What's up? How you doing?
I'm good, y'all. I got to shout out Reladelic for that intro. Again, shout out to Reladelic for that fire intro that he made me.
Get off my mic, Corey.
Yeah. I'm good, man. It's been a real busy day today.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. We got some beautiful ladies in the studio.
Talk about it.
Yeah. I'm not going to introduce them yet, though. I know y'all see them, but we're not going to introduce them yet because we got to jump on to right here and right now.
Yes. All right, y'all. This is a weekly segment we do called Right Here, Right Now, when we touch on some things that are going on in the world. Tonight's topic, it kind of annoys me. I am glad that this trial has finally began, but the Ahmaud Arbery case, if you guys have been following, so the jury was selected, and we have 11 white jurors and 1 black juror. Now,
Crazy.
from the Sixth Amendment says that you are guaranteed a trial, by a group of your peers and an impartial panel of people who will be judging you. I see no one other than one person that looks like this young man, period, on this jury. So
Right.
I feel like the railroad is coming.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
we're talking about Georgia, New Brunswick, Georgia. We're talking about where this thing happened at. And, we know the reputation of the South as much as I love it there.
Right.
And a product of that. I know what it is. So I'm really afraid for him and his family not getting justice and our community not getting justice.
Mm-hmm. And we see it all the time. You know what? I gotta before we elaborate on this conversation, because one of our guests is a lawyer, and I really would love to hear what she has to say about this. But for an overall introduction, I would like to introduce the ladies of the Grieving with Hope Conference, Miss Anitra Green and Miss Janelle Foster. Welcome to the Rebirth, ladies.
Yeah. You gonna hit the applause, Shay? You gonna hit the applause?
Wait a minute, I gotta find the clap. Hold on. Let's see if I can get it right.
Yeah. Welcome, ladies.
Welcome to the Rebirth, ladies. How about you guys introduce yourself, and I would love for you to chime in on this topic really quick about what your thoughts are.
Sure. Well, I'll get started. I'm Anitra Green. I'm one half of Grieving with Hope with Anitra and Janelle. And I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in the field for over 20 years, and I recently opened the private practice in March of this year called Tailor Made Behavioral Health Solutions.
Yes.
And I decided to come out because of the pandemic. Going to private practice, we know that COVID and all of the mental health challenges that arose with this pandemic, I decided that this was a good time for me to come out of, I would say, secret society. And I'm happy that I did. And I'm excited to talk about the conference today. And I will pass the mic to
Okay, awesome.
my friend.
All right.
All right, Miss Janelle Foster. Or do we go by Janelle Foster Esquire, Janelle Foster? I want to
Either way, I'm still Janelle Foster, but I don't mind the Esquire either.
Okay.
I know that's right.
Janelle Foster.
You earned it.
You earned it. You
sure
earned
did.
it. That's right.
Thank you. Well, yes, my name is Janelle Foster, and I am an attorney, and I would definitely like to weigh in.
Hold on. Can we just applaud this lady? This African American female attorney. Hit the button, Shay. Shout out. No doubt, Janelle. All right, talk that talk, Janelle, because I got some warrants. I'm going to have to talk to you after the show. Carry on. I'm sorry. I just want to give you your flowers, boo.
Thank you so much. So I do want to weigh in. It is very disappointing to just have one person of color on this jury panel. But one thing that I would like everybody to think about, and one thing that I talk about, is that many people of color, when they get the jury notifications in the mail, we don't want to do it. We don't want to go down there. We don't want to be jurors.
We sure don't.
So, but then when there's just one black person or one person of color, we're quick to complain. But many people I know don't want to be jurors. They don't want to do it. They don't want to answer, and they try to get away from it. So my answer to that is, if we want more people of color to be jurors, then you yourself have to answer the call.
Absolutely.
And be willing to be a juror. You know, it is a hard job, and you know, it is a time that you have to take away from your job, your family, and making decisions. But if we don't start answering that call, we're not going to be on the panel, and you're going to keep seeing what we have right now. You're going to see one person of color, and then the rest not.
Yeah.
And that's really what it stems from.
Right.
You don't really have a good base of jurors to even select from. So that's one of the big problems.
And that's real talk. Y'all see, so listen, come on
Real
now. When
talk.
y'all get that notice, listen, go down and do what you need to do.
Yes.
Because that's true. I
It's
never
true.
even thought about it like that.
Yep.
That's absolutely true.
You know what?
Wow.
I think one of the things too that happens is we are so disenchanted with the criminal justice system.
Absolutely.
If we don't have to be in a courtroom in any way, we're not trying to go. Most of us.
Yep.
So there is a cause and effect to us having that attitude. So I get that part too. But I 100% agree. And if I ever get that knock or that letter, I guess I'm gonna take my little black behind on down there just in case they're trying to railroad somebody.
Go ahead and do what you need to
You
do.
know what I mean?
Go do what you need to do.
Janelle has told us.
I do. I tell all my friends, like I have
did.
given every one of my friends the speech
Yes.
about when you get the notice, please answer and please go. I mean, you know, we know how the system is.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, it is a whole system where we're already up against the wall, but we need more of us to come down there and just be willing. And even, I guess, to me, even when more people are willing, we still got another wall. We have to get put onto the jury. So, but at least if we're there, we have a better chance, obviously the only chance, to get on the jury than if we just don't show up at all.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's real
So-
talk.
Wow.
So what do
Real
you guys
talk.
predict this is what's going to happen?
Well, you know what? I'm not hopeful, to be honest, at this very moment. Hopefully the people on there are just fair and impartial people. I know when you come from a certain community, it's hard to go against that.
Right.
And but this guy was jogging, and here's the part that got me. The Travis, I think it was Travis McMichael who actually shot him. He said he felt threatened for his life. You approached him. He was jogging. Whether he was in a house that was being built, that's the problem with these damn Karens and Carls. Mind your business. Just call the police. So now we got to worry about the police. Now we have to worry about vigilantes, and then it's too much. That's PTSD all day for the average brother that's out here walking on the street. So mind your business. If you feel that strongly about it, just call the cops. Maybe he would have still been alive. You never know with that too, but.
Right.
I like my chances better, hopefully, than 3 dudes pulling up on me in a pickup truck.
Yeah. It's sad overall. It's
sad.
just a sad
It is.
situation. All right. Well, that was right here, right now.
We're gonna have a happy one next week. Don't worry, y'all.
I hope so. All right, guys. So tonight we are going to be talking about Grieving with Hope. Grieving with Hope is a conference that's going to be coming to us November 20th, right?
November 20th.
Okay, awesome. So, ladies, my question to you is, how did Grieving with Hope come about? And we can start. Either one, anyone can start.
So in 2017, Grieving with Hope was an idea that evolved after noticing that there was not a lot of conversations happening about grief. And Janelle and I both have very powerful personal stories about grief. In 2017, as I mentioned, I was a social worker, had dealt with a lot of grief and loss, and just had an idea about bringing people together. Unfortunately, I had been on multiple grief journeys of my own, both personally and professionally. And then Janelle and I shared an experience that had me to invite her really for the first conference in 2018 as one of my keynote speakers. We were very close friends. And at the time, we had a conversation about how do you have this real conversation about grief? Nobody wants to talk about death.
Right.
Our society doesn't really we don't talk about death. We don't talk about grief. We know that death happens every day, but there's really not an intentional conversation. So the first conference was October of 2018, and Janelle was a keynote speaker at the time. She was at Widener Law School going through her own intense journey. I had been through several journeys, shared her grief journey because her sister was a friend of mine, and it was a phenomenal time. I was surprised. We had 55 people come to the first conference, and I just said, hey, you know what? Let's see who else wants to talk about grief. And that was the beginning of an avenue to allow people to be able to come together and talk about the difficulties of grief, the struggles, the challenge, what's misunderstood, what do we share in common. It's hard. Our faith, the challenges of faith. It was just a great conversation. And out of that, Grieving with Hope started. So Janelle joined after hearing all of the feedback, and people were saying, hey, we need more. We can't wait for 1 year. We can't wait annually for this conference. What else are you going to do? Janelle and I talked and decided to join forces because she had her own ideas about what she wanted to do regarding grief, and just said, hey, instead of me starting something and you starting something, let's join forces, which I'm so grateful for because it did go to the next level. 2 is better than 1. So her ideas, her creativity, my creativity flowing, and Grieving with Hope with Anitra and Janelle started in 2019. Well, end of 2018, early 2019. And in March, we started doing the conference calls, and then we evolved to a monthly Zoom and this annual conference. And the rest is really history.
Awesome. Now, what about you, Janelle? What I understand, I know that you share, something in common. What made you wanted to say, okay, yes, I do want to be a part of this and move forward with doing the conference?
Yeah, so me and Nitra have been friends for over 20 years, and she's a licensed social worker. And so when I experienced a very traumatic loss in 2015, she was one of the first people who came to me and said, I think you really need to go get counseling. I think you really need to, really deal with your grief, on a different level than just, how you've been dealing with it. So when I lost my sister, actually. My sister was tragically murdered by her husband, domestic violence. And then 30 days later, my father died from a massive heart attack from just him not being able to process and deal with the grief of my sister being murdered. So for me, right away, I saw the devastating effects of not being able to handle grief. My father had a heart attack and died. Wow. So for me, I knew I had to get some help, So I did. So I started going to counseling and was working through my feelings. And then, like Nitra said, it was my first year of law school. So it was just a very trying, traumatic time for me. And, I just was able to work through it through counseling. And then eventually I got to the point where I was able to go back to law school and, able to kind of move forward. And when Nitra had decided, as we talked about it, when she had decided to do her first conference, she did ask me to be a keynote speaker. And so, I came on and I was a keynote speaker just talking about, what my experience was and, how I dealt with grief. And then from there, like she said, it was such a good turnout and such positive feedback. It was just, we just didn't want to stop. And so we kept moving forward. And for me, it's been just a part of my recovery because the more I talk about it, the more I share, the more I help others, it in turn helped me to help myself. So
yes, absolutely.
That's how it basically came about.
Absolutely.
Are there any men a part of your group and what you guys have going on? What's the response from men? I know we grieve differently, or we don't grieve at all. So,
Yes.
what advice, or how do you guys approach?
So we've actually had men that were keynote speakers. We had a man that was a keynote speaker the first year, and last year when we had our conference by Zoom, we had a minister that came on that dealt with grief himself. He had lost several siblings. And so we've had men that have come on. We have a monthly Zoom. Now, it's not as many men. So
Right.
what you're saying is absolutely true. I think men grieve in the dark. It's not something that always come out to light. Women are more chatty and talkative, and, we're used to talking through our problems. So I would definitely say that it's a little bit different from men, but we're always constantly encouraging them to join, come on. We try to find male speakers, and hopefully they can get the male perspective on what grieving looks like, for the man. And it is different. It's very, very different.
For a man who's hesitant to start the process of counseling or whatever in reference to grieving, what would you say to him?
I would say to just start by the support group. The one thing about our Zoom is that you can just call in. You don't even have to have your face on. You don't even have to show who you are. You can just start by listening. You don't have to share. You don't even have to tell anybody that you're on. So you have the opportunity to just come on and listen to what others are saying and just start there. Sometimes you're just not ready to talk, or you're not ready to be known. You may not even want to let people know that you're dealing with grief. So that's one thing that I like about our support group is we offer you to be anonymous. You don't have to come on and be seen. That's the one good thing about being on Zoom versus being in person. So I would suggest either that avenue through us or through somebody else who offers it, where you have the same option to be anonymous.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good. I think that would work for, because we are, I guess, anytime there's an opportunity for us to appear weak, we don't want to take that, even if it's just in appearance, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that's awesome to have that as an option.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Can you ladies define grief for those that don't know it? Because sometimes people are grieving and they don't even realize that they're grieving. Like, what is grief? What does it look like? How does it show up in women? And how does it show up in men? Because it does look different.
Okay. So the most basic definition for grief is our human natural response to loss. That loss can be a physical death. It can be a relationship death. It can be the loss of a friend. It could be the loss of your marriage. It could be a loss of any loss. And right now in COVID, I want to really say that the whole world is collectively grieving something. Many people are losing multiple things, and in a space that I call bereavement overload, where you've lost people physically, lost jobs, lost health. Some people have lost their health to COVID. They've never fully recovered from this virus. So there's a lot of grieving going on.
Yeah.
And although Grieving with Hope focuses on death, that's our mission. We focus on grief as it relates to death. There are many people who are grieving who have not had a physical loss.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So how do you support someone that is grieving a loss, and someone that, because I look at divorce also as a loss, right? And someone that's grieving a divorce. How do you support both people in the same grief support group?
So I can take that too, because I have clients, as I mentioned before, as a licensed mental health professional. Professionally, I have clients who have health problems, have lost multiple people to COVID, and have lost many things. Really, they're going through the same stages of grief, and I know we're going to get into that, but really they're going through the same stages.
Yeah.
I think the difference is with death, the permanency of it. So it does look different in that if a person is divorced, they can remarry. No, you can't replace that person, but you can find love again. For a person who has lost their job or their house, if your house burned down to the ground, yes, you've lost memories. That is a loss, but people can rebuild. But when you lose people, it is forever.
Yeah.
You can't not replace a person. So you go through the same stages, I would say. And while we're talking about stages of grief, I might as well kind of get into that.
Sure, let's get it.
Okay. So just to kind of let people know, in case they want to go back and do their own research, a woman by the name of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and anybody who's took psychology or any social work course has heard her name somewhere. She's like the founding mother of the stages of grief. And she talks about these stages, these 5 stages, and they don't happen in any particular order. But she found, I was surprised to find this out. I don't recall this being mentioned in the study of her work, but that these stages actually came from her study with terminally ill patients. So originally, these are the stages that the terminally ill clients were going through as they were facing their own death. But she found out that the people who were losing them also felt the same experience. And so she talks about, the first stage of shock or denial, and that's kind of when you can't believe it. And people stay in shock for a long period of time.
Right.
And you can go back and forth from shock to anger, back to shock, back to anger, back to bargaining. So I do want to say that this isn't a neat script where this is first, this is second, this is third. It really happens in like a roller coaster. It looks like a zigzag line.
Right.
And so it doesn't happen in any order. But of course, first is the shock. So from the time that you hear, I'm sorry to tell you that such and such has passed away, it's traumatic. I mean, your brain really cannot take all of that in. Informationally, it's a lot. So that whole shock and denial phase can last for days, weeks, months, years. I have clients who will say 6 months after it happens, they wake up and they still can't believe it. Yeah. So that's very normal.
Right.
It's not really, it's a lot. And so you have to absorb death and taking it in small doses. As I tell people, your brain is absorbing it, but it doesn't really register for a long time because your life changes in an instant second that you're told the news. And then from there, you're trying to process all of this information. So, and then there's the anger. Sometimes people are angry with the person that died. Sometimes people are angry with God. Sometimes people are angry with themselves. Sometimes people are just angry at everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
All of the above. Of course, when it is violence and other factors, it just adds insult to the injury because it's not a natural cause. When someone has taken your loved one's life, it's a whole different process. So there's all of these emotions, all of these feelings. And then there's the bargaining where people are just, kind of pleading with God and saying, please, please tell me this isn't real, especially when you're talking about even in cases where people have terminally ill family members and they're being told that this person has a certain amount of time to live, or maybe a person is in a comatose state and people are praying and just believing that things are going to change. And then there is the depression phase, which is a natural response to grief. So when people are depressed and they say, I just feel depressed, it's like, welcome to the world of grief. You will have your days where you are sad. You don't want to talk to anybody.
Right.
You just want the world to stop spinning for a second because you're trying to get your life back and your life has shifted. So obviously you have to learn how to deal in this new normal. You have to learn how to deal. Every day you have to wake up and learn how to live without this person. And it is overwhelming.
Yes.
So, you hear people say, I've never been, this sad, I usually bounce back from stuff. I hear people say that. They think that, I did this, I did that. And I'm like, the grief bounce back. It's bounce back and grief. They don't even ever belong in the same sentence because grief is it's in a class all by itself. So sometimes people are thinking, when am I going to feel better? I never was depressed before. I'm a bubbly person. And it's like, yeah, the bubbliest of us. Grief will turn your bubble to
Right.
to upside down. It'll burst.
It bursts the
It
bubble.
bursts the bubbly. Okay, that's how that goes. And then the acceptance phase, which takes, there's not a time limit. Acceptance, trying to accept it. Sometimes just saying, okay, this person is not here. Oh my goodness, I can't believe this. Let me begin to transition my life. Let me begin to give some of the clothes away. They're not coming back. Let me begin to make these phone calls and send out these death certificates to the bill collectors because they're not coming back. So when you have to do all of these little things that remind you that the person is going, it's overwhelming. But it's a slow acceptance.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are, the phases in general. And like I said, you can go from anger to depression, back to shock, back to depression, back to anger, and it just is, and that's the way that it looks.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have a couple comments from, I don't know if I'm saying your name correct, but Riental Smith, I believe. She says, grief support is very important in going through the process of coping with loss. Knowledge is power. This is much needed and relevant in today's society where loss is widespread. It affects people from all walks of life. Thank you, Ms. Smith, for chiming in. If anybody want to call up and ask any questions, the hotline is open. It's 267-908-3166. Again, that's 267-908-3166. And we are speaking to Anitra Green and Janelle Foster from Grieving with Hope. So I have a question. Why do you think people, families, tend to go against each other when there's a loss? I know everybody grieves differently. And, you know, of course, I've come across cases as well where some people may be in therapy and they're going through their grief process, and you might hear them say, well, they're not even crying. Like, they may be speaking to another family member and saying, well, they're not even crying. Like, and they're angry that this person is not showing grief the way that they are. And of course, you know, I say, well, people grieve differently. You know, everybody grieves differently, and at different times, right? So what do you find might be a reason that families tend to start going against each other?
I can answer that. Having been through grief, and you know, I have a big family. You know, emotions are very high when you're dealing with grief, and most people haven't experienced grief before, so it's not like something that we just deal with all the time. Usually, so everybody's emotions are very high. Most people don't know how to deal with it. And then we do what we do best. We start lashing out on everybody that's around us. We have all these emotions, and usually it's some of the emotions you're probably feeling for the first time. You don't know what to do with all the emotions, so they kind of like erupt out of you. And if, you know, and not if, really, everybody does grieve differently. So when you say, you notice people will say, oh, well, this person isn't crying.
Right.
Or because you expect people to be feeling exactly what you're feeling.
Right.
So if what your response to it is to be tearful and to be upset, when you look at your loved one sitting next to you and that's not their response, number one, you question their response, and then you question your response.
Right.
So, you know, it becomes a thing where the family members just start butting heads and arguing and being angry with each other because the stress level is just so high. And then most people aren't getting help. And so they're just lashing out. You know, I know that, you know, my experience was very similar. Even I was lashing out on other family members. Other family members was lashing out on me because it was just such a traumatic event that was unexpected. We didn't prepare for it. You don't really prepare and say, okay, what would I do if one of my family members were murdered? Let's all sit down and talk about it, everybody. How are we going to handle this? So in my case, when we had a family member that was murdered, it came usually out of nowhere. And so you don't plan for it. You haven't talked about this as a family. You know, we didn't know how we were going to react because we never, ever expected it. So it's just a high stress. It's high stress, and it's something you can't plan for. You just can't.
Yeah.
Right.
So it makes it difficult.
And let me say, and this is all very valuable information. Shay and I talked earlier last week when, you know, we were discussing doing this particular show. And I initially told her I didn't think I would be able to do it. So I'm not normally this quiet. Shut up. But anyway, so I lost my sister a couple of months ago, my oldest sister. And so I was trying to figure out how I would, you know, be a part of this show and be effective, other than right here, right now. And so I'm just sitting here like listening and taking it in. And it kind of reminded me of when you were saying how people grieve differently. I found myself being angry. We were headed to the funeral. My family is a really big family. And so everybody was here I grew up in Arkansas. So everybody was here, and we wanted everybody to be together. So we got a party bus. So which probably was the beginning of my anger right there. So we're all on the party bus, and we're on our way to the funeral. And so the driver, it was just really quiet. And then the driver, I don't know, for whatever reason, he asked us, do we want music? Now, this wasn't a party bus with a stripper pole or anything like that. It wasn't crazy like that. But just like a 20 passenger. You know, you can get a lot of people on there. And so they started playing music, and people were singing and dancing, and like really on the way to the church. And they were really, and I was really upset because I was a mess from the time we got on there and we sat down. I could not pull myself together. And I was there. I actually saw my sister take her last breath. So I was only there with her. So I was the only one there with her. So I think it hit me differently because of that. But on the way, and I had to realize that this is kind of their way of dealing with it, although I could not appreciate it in the way they were grieving. You know what I mean? So I hear everything you're saying loud and clear about how we grieve differently. But I was mad as hell. And I'm like, and I was really like, could not stop crying.
Yeah.
And they were singing along the music. This guy's got Pitbull playing. Like, it was like crazy to me. And I was just like, I felt like it was just chaos around me. And it made me really, really angry. But I had to understand that we do all grieve differently. And we do all handle things differently. But in that moment, I want everybody to grieve the way I did. Which wasn't fair. But that's what I wanted.
I think that's normal.
Yeah, and it was just a little crazy. I'm looking at these people that I know love her the same as I do.
Yep.
And you're not grieving the way that I'm grieving.
Yes. And that's very normal. I mean, I think that the way that you feel is how you there were probably several people on that bus with a wide range of feelings. Those are discussions that we don't have, though.
Right.
Like, what do you need? How are you handling this? We don't really talk about it. I felt that way at my grandmother's repast after we buried her. People were laughing and eating and talking, and I was thinking, what is there to laugh about? Like, I don't know when I'm going to ever smile again.
Right.
I'm like, God, I need some of that, because right now I don't feel any of it. Then I started being frustrated with them.
Yeah.
And then also kind of saying then I felt like nobody really understood how hard this was, because I perceived it as nobody must not be taking this as hard as I am.
Right.
So then I felt like it was them and me. And I know her children loved her, and I'm like, and then there's the spiritual answers, which we'll probably touch bases with later. There's the spiritual answers, and people are like, yeah, she's with God. So she's rejoicing, so we are too. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not rejoicing.
Right.
I don't want her with God right now, and I want her with me. And so let me just step out. And I did feel that way. I was very angry, because I'm just like, what is there to laugh about? I just remember hearing the laughter, and it just sounded like it had me so agitated.
Yeah.
Every time I saw somebody laughing or doing anything happy, I just was like, I cannot believe that these people actually have time to laugh. What is in the world is there to have joy about? When 30 minutes ago we put her in the ground, like, how are people laughing 30 minutes? And I was very upset. So I think our experience is more common.
Yeah.
I think more people do what we do than not.
Right.
Which is why we try to educate people to respect. At that point, I didn't realize that everybody's grief is very different.
Yeah.
I know for myself, I'm sorry.
No, go.
I usually skip repasses. I do. And I guess maybe I kind of feel the same way. I know people, refer to funerals and stuff as celebrations of life and stuff like that, which is fine. But I usually just go to the funeral itself, view the body, and then the repast I tend to avoid and skip. And I don't know, I just don't feel like eating and socializing, and like you said, when you just put a loved one in.
Right.
So I do think that you got to know what it is that you're able to take. And I don't think that anyone should feel pressure into, putting themselves in a space that's not comfortable for them. Absolutely. So that's definitely my message. If you know that that's not, that's not comfortable for you, then, do what's comfortable for you. You don't have to, participate in all of, the ceremony, because some people don't feel like talking or eating and laughing after you just, buried your loved one. So,
that's great advice.
And I think it's
don't push past your limits.
I think it's important to know, to know your limits.
But don't it feel like repasses have become more of that? Like more of, now it's time to kick it and drink and, or even after the repast, when everybody's back at the house together. Like I remember being a little kid. I don't remember it being that way. Like it was sort of you kind of ate, and then you know everybody went their separate ways. Now I feel like it's more of a, I guess people want to celebrate people's lives more.
Yeah.
So now than maybe when I was a kid, I never felt like it was a celebration of life. I felt like it was the saddest thing in the whole wide world when I was a kid. Now it seems to be more festive. Can anybody speak to why you think funerals or repasses have taken on that overtone or that method right now? What do
I
you
can
think?
answer that. I think because it almost becomes a little family reunion, because you see people that you haven't seen in a very long time. Like you said, you have family members coming in from all different states, all different places. So it becomes your next little mini family reunion.
Yeah,
so
true.
that's what becomes, right? You be like, oh, I haven't seen cousin so-and-so, and I haven't seen this person, I haven't seen that person. So
Caller, bear with us. We're going to bring you in a second. Hold tight.
yeah, so because you haven't seen your family members, you know, you're ready to embrace them. You see kids, you see so many different people. So that also becomes, you know, the camaraderie of it all. So a little bit comes less about the person that has passed, and it comes to the family saying, you know what, we got to stop meeting like this.
Right.
Like we got to meet on different terms. And because life is busy, we work hard, everybody has, you know, their own lives, it becomes a little family reunion.
Yeah.
And then the
Makes
people
sense.
that are in a different place, they may not be ready for that family reunion on that level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for that. Welcome to the Rebirth caller. Please state your name. Who am I speaking to?
Hi, my name is Robert.
Hi, Robert. How are you tonight?
I'm doing just fine.
You had a comment, Robert?
Oh, yes. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Oh, sorry. I have been a person that has been involved in many funerals. I have officiated funerals. I've also did eulogies in funerals. And I've been around many families. And what I've come to realize with grieving is it runs the whole gambit, where some people are joyous, some people are a little bit upset, and some people are quite angry at one another. And one thing that I rely on is, how did people act around each other prior to this stressful event?
Right.
Sometimes when there is stress that's involved, you lose muscle memory. You just go by what you used to do. You go by something that's comfortable for you. And what I have found is families that really love each other in the time of grief, they tend to console one another. Families that have a little bit of confusion or have other things that's going on, sometimes they resort back to that, not attack mode, but sometimes they resort to doing what they've been doing in the past. And sometimes it comes off to others as attacking one another. So people do grieve differently. I have seen people rejoice. I've seen people laugh at funerals, and I've seen people cry. I've been at funerals where people try to actually get in the casket with the loved one,
Yes.
you know, things of that sort. So I've seen all kinds of things. But this is a very good topic that you're talking on, and I'm glad that you allowed me to just say a couple words about it. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you,
Wow,
Robert,
thank
for
you for
tuning
calling
in.
in. Thank
Have
you.
a great night.
Thank you. You do the same.
Thank you. All right, guys. So we're going to go to a quick break. You are listening to the Rebirth on Fully Jamz 95.3. We'll be back. Every 3 seconds, a woman is murdered by an intimate partner due to domestic violence. A damaged self-worth, distorted thoughts, and fear can keep a woman trapped. It's time to renew. 50% of marriages end in divorce. Loss of identity, security, and financial instability can cause a person to grieve a relationship as if they are grieving death. It's time to rebuild. Only 10% of Americans dealing with addiction receive treatment. More than 20% of Americans with anxiety disorder also suffer from a drug use disorder. People addicted to prescription drugs are 40 times more likely to become addicted to heroin. It's time to restore. Life happens to all of us, no matter race, gender, or age. You will be challenged to rediscover who you are meant to be, and what purpose you are meant to serve. Starting over after a life crisis, 12-step online course will help you rebuild, restore, renew, and rebirth the new version of yourself. It's never too late to start over and rewrite your story. Sometimes we have to die a little inside in order to be reborn. The rebirth. Welcome back to The Rebirth. My name is Shay Marriott. I am your host tonight, and my co-host is Mr.
Eli Isabel.
And tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with Mrs. Anitra Green and Mrs. Janelle Foster from Grieving with Hope. We are talking about their conference that's coming up November 20th. How can people tap into this conference? Do they need to register? What do they need to do to be a part of this?
Okay, so glad that you asked. We definitely want people to host their watch parties. This year we are coming to you via Facebook Live. So they on the flyer. If you like Grieving with Hope, first we're going to ask you to go to our Facebook page and like Grieving with Hope with Anitra and Janelle. And on that is where you will be able to view the live broadcast on November the 20th at 12 p.m. You can also see the broadcast live on cmpradio.net. Okay. If you also go to that Facebook page, like cmpradio.net, you have your choice of where you can watch it from either two of those locations. So plan your watch party. It's from 12 to 1:30 on November the 20th. And we decided to go live because the whole world is grieving. So why not be on the World Wide Web?
Right. Awesome. Wow. Well, you know, you ladies are really out here making a difference, and people need it, especially during this time of the year with the holidays coming up. So let's talk about that a little bit. With the holiday season, what are you noticing? What are you seeing? What tips and advice can you give for those that are grieving during this time?
You want me to start, Janelle? Go ahead. Okay. So the holidays are extremely stressful because it's a reminder of the people who are missing. Mm-hmm. You know, that is when we gather. That is when we have our traditions. We celebrate. And so the light is shined on our losses and the people that are no longer here. So we decided to move the grief conference from October, the second week in October, which it traditionally ran, to the Saturday before Thanksgiving every year strategically, because that Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's stretch is hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's like a triple threat. You have the holidays, and then there's traditions, and it's trying to figure out what you're going to do. The emotions are running raw. You're trying to figure out, are you going to come out? What are you going to do? Are you going to travel for Thanksgiving? Are you going to host? Do you even want to have Thanksgiving?
Right.
You know, some people are like, I don't know. Everything changes. And so this is a high stress time. This is a time that I encourage, as Janelle said before, I highly encourage people to seek out support for grief. I know a lot of people are anti-therapy, especially in communities of color, because we don't really understand what therapy is, or we think that in order to be in therapy, we have to be on medication, or we have to have, you know, these labels, and people are going to, I think we just have made it something that it's not. And so I highly suggest people to seek support. Talk to your friends, talk to your loved ones. If you are struggling, if you're having suicidal thoughts, if your health is deteriorating and you cannot do your daily functions, because grief can do that to you, that is definitely a time to seek professional help. And I just want to encourage everyone to log on, especially those who are on new and fresh grief journeys. Some of us have been on journeys for a time where we kind of have built up our coping skills and know what to do. But many people are just having losses. Like there's people today who are listening to this broadcast who just found out somebody passed away like this week. It could have been today.
Yeah.
So this is something that you don't have to come in person. You can log in. It's just going to be a conversation about all things grief, the pandemic, the holidays, mental health. Why is it taboo? Spirituality and grief, faith and grief. So I do hope that people can just tune in and hear a good conversation. Janelle?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So, the holidays are a very, very tough time because I call it dealing with that empty seat.
Okay.
So, I say it's an empty seat because, with the traditions you have, Aunt Susie made the potato salad.
Right.
And so now that she's gone, it's like, okay, you're dealing with, you notice that she's gone more than everything because that was what she brought to it. Or, whatever tradition that your family had, that seat is now empty. It's not taken. Nobody can take that person's place. So it's, what do you do? And it's, if you think of, okay, well, let me try to do a new tradition, you feel like you're leaving the loved one behind. You feel a lot of guilt and, a lot of feelings that come along with that. And then if you just don't acknowledge that the person isn't there, you don't acknowledge the empty seat, then, you feel bad because it's like, well, now this person isn't a part of it and you're not even thinking about them. So dealing with the holidays, no matter how you handle it, it brings up so many different feelings. And like Nitra said, you have to think about, do you want to still celebrate? Don't you want to celebrate?
Yeah.
And it's almost like inevitable as these holidays are coming, it makes you deal with it. Whereas other times you may not have to put it at the forefront of your mind. The holidays basically force you, if you celebrate, to sit down and really think about the fact that this person is gone, and it's highlighted.
Right.
It's absolutely highlighted that this person is not here. And so, again, it just brings about so many emotions. Anxiety starts to build as you get closer to the holiday, because you just don't know how you're going to feel. And I really do believe, like Nitra said, like this stretch of holidays, because it's so close together, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and they're family orientated, holidays. Whereas like July 4th or Memorial Day, you may not feel it so much, but Thanksgiving and Christmas is times where families come together. We have that Thanksgiving dinner. We share that Christmas gift exchange and celebration and, all of those different things. And also you think about the religious aspects of everything and where are you with God? A lot of times where when you're dealing with these, things, you question your relationship with God. You may not be in the place that you usually are. So that's also highlighted now as these holidays start to roll around. So for many, many, many different reasons, the holidays are very, very, very tough when you're dealing with grief. So like we said, we try to talk about it right before, and just start thinking about, how are you prepared to handle the holidays with the grief that you're feeling.
I would like I know we're going to be wrapping up soon, but I would like for you guys to speak to the person that feels like they have to be strong through it all. That they're not allowing themselves to just allow their hearts to break and grieve because they're trying to keep it together for everybody else. Of course, we always hear it's like cliche now at this point. It's okay to not be okay, right? We hear it a lot. But what would you say to that person that is just like, I don't have time to grieve right now because I have to be strong for everybody else? Or they keep themselves so busy that they won't allow themselves to, to feel what it is that they need to feel.
I actually went through that. You probably might remember. I used to tell you, you know what? I'm not dealing with my grief until after I graduate from law school.
Right.
That's when I'm going to sit down and I'm going to deal with grief. I had a date.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't deal with this. When I graduate law school, I will sit down and I will finally grieve. Like that was going to be the moment. And because I called myself being strong, just like you said, I was strong. I was going to be strong for my family. I was still going to graduate law school. I had all of these things. And then, when you do that, though, when you call yourself being strong for everybody else and, doing that, you can't be strong for everybody else if you don't take care of you, because at some point you're going to crack. The bottom is going to drop out. You can only hold so much, and then your tank overfills. And then when that happens, you can't hold anybody up anyway.
Right.
One example that I always think about is when I get on a plane, they always tell you, when the mask drops, you got to put that mask on yourself first. Don't start putting it on your kids and this person, that person, because you're going to pass out and then you can't help anybody else.
Absolutely.
So put it on you first and then start putting it on others. So I think about grief like that. You got to make you well first. You have to get to a good place. If you want to hold up your family and that's the plan, we'll start with you, because you're not going to be able to hold anybody up if the bottom falls out of your life.
Right.
Yes. Very well said. Very well said.
Great advice.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, you have definitely brought a wealth of information to the Rebirth. I'm so happy that you guys are on. And the guys, listen, if you're listening, you don't want to miss this conference. I had the pleasure of being a part of the conference the last 2 years. So I learned a lot. It was, I think, the first year I vended, and then last year actually was one of the speakers. So it was a great conference, and you guys definitely want to, to tune in. Make sure you follow these ladies on all social medias. Anything? You okay? You good? You got through the show tonight, bro. I'm proud of you.
I made it.
I'm proud of you.
You made it.
Yes.
You made it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, I just want to encourage people that's listening. If you have not gotten support, get support.
Please.
It's okay to talk to a friend. It's okay to talk to family, but sometimes you need that support from a professional that's going to help, give you the tools and the things that you need to make it through. Ladies, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you for having us on, number one. We so appreciate it, and this topic is very important. We definitely appreciate that. If anybody wants to reach out, like Nitra said, you can go to our Facebook page, Grieving with Hope with Anitra and Janelle. Also, I am an attorney. I have a law firm.
Yes, she does.
Yes, I do. In Aston, Pennsylvania. So you can also find me on Facebook at the law office of Janelle S. Foster.
All right.
I was late on the claps.
No part of that's your thing.
That's okay.
All right.
Go ahead, Nitra.
And I want to thank you too for having us here. And I always like to close with, grief is a journey, take hope. I just think, I just want people to understand that grief is a journey. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. This is not something that happens, 1 week and then, 90 days later, you're good. Just to be patient with yourself. Don't judge yourself. And I hope that people can tune into the conference. And please share this resource with people who are grieving. If you're listening to this and you're in a great place or you have skills, then that's wonderful. There are so many people who feel like they are suffering in silence and don't know where to start. So if you see this, please, sharing is caring. I mean, yes, sharing is caring.
Yes.
So please share this information. And also, you're welcome to like my practice page. Right now, I'm not accepting any new clients because I'm booked in the moment, but I'm looking to expand. But please check out Tailor-Made Behavioral Health Solutions.
Yes.
That's what's up.
I'm also giving out grief trainings. If you are an organization that wants to learn about how to support grieving people, I am doing trainings for corporations, therapists, anyone who supports grieving people, clergy, churches. I have some trainings coming up. So please let me help you help grieving people.
And her trainings are the bomb. Okay. She just did one for our company.
Thank you. I just did one, and you guys were a great place to start because you were engaging and wonderful. And I'm talking to some organizations now, and I'm hoping to take the mystery out of grief and let's get the work done.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, once again, thank you so much for joining us. And this was Grieving with Hope Conference, November 20th. Guys, make sure you sign up. Now, before we end the show, I have to end the show on a good note because my brother, my partner, is turning 40 tomorrow.
It's okay. I'm good with that.
We're going to turn up for a little bit. Hey, we're going to turn up. Hey, happy birthday. Hey, happy birthday.
Thank you. I
Happy
did not
birthday.
expect this. Thank y'all so much. Wow, thank y'all. Please help me eat this because I'm trying to lose weight.
Thank you
Please
guys.
take.
Thank you
Thank you
guys
so
for
much.
joining us on the Rebirth. We are
Wow.
here every Monday night at 7 p.m. Make sure you tune in next week. We have Mrs. Antoinette Haston that's going to be coming on, and she's going to be talking about her second chance at life. So make sure you guys
Right.
tune in next Monday at 7 p.m. Have a good evening.
Peace. Wow.
One time for the birthday kid, 2 times for the birthday kid, 3 times for the birthday kid. Go ahead and visit your birthday. 1 time for the birthday kid, 2 times for the birthday kid, 3 times for the birthday kid. Go ahead and visit your birthday. 1 time for the birthday kid, 2 times for the birthday kid, 3 times for the birthday kid. Go ahead and visit your birthday.
Champagne